Thanks for Kit for having me here. That's very nice of them. I really enjoy having the chance to meet with the Vietnamese tech community. So maybe we'll meet tonight. Okay. So I am Cédric Dué, French software freelance developer, and I've been working in the field of IT for more than 2 decades now. So I've worked in big companies, startups. I've built products, desktop apps, but mostly web applications and in various domains like banking, e-commerce, and big data, stuff like this. And I'm also a big fan of side projects. I will talk about this a little bit later, but I've built countless of them. And as you can guess, from the time I'm working in IT, I've seen quite some changes. And currently, we can see AI all over. And this is really a game changer. It brought us all into a very exciting period for the tech industry. And it already has changed the way we write software. So we can generate thousands of lines of code just by asking something. So this is really exciting. But there's the question with that. So are we becoming more productive with AI, or are we becoming more dependent? And today, I'd like to talk about how we can move from VibeCoding to Vibe learning. So first, what is VibeCoding? I guess you all already know, but VibeCoding is when you describe what you want, the AI generates the code, you tweak the prompt until you've got something you find okay, and then you ship it to production. So you never really touch the keyboard, don't create the code yourself. So it feels amazing, and productivity skyrockets. It's really amazing, but something subtle happened. We stopped thinking deeply about what we want to generate. And I think that this is when things are getting a little bit dangerous, and maybe your company and yourself might start to worry just a little. The companies are already pushing back, not because AI is bad, but because teams don't really understand the generated code, and debugging becomes harder. Nobody really feels ownership of the features, and there are some unclear performance and security trade-off took by the AI. So what happened, for example, if a bug happened on production at 2 a.m.? Do you think that your team can fix it? Or do you think they will ask the AI over and over again, wishing for a positive outcome? That's the question. The real risk for me is not AI replacing developers. The risk for me is AI, it's developer replacing understanding and thinking by just prompting. So if we stop building mental models, we slowly lose the ability to reason about system. And this has been proven in a study on the MIT. Last year in 2025, the MIT released a study in which they were trying to understand what's the impact of AI on our brain. So they created 3 groups of people. The first one was allowed to use ChatGPT only. The second group was allowed to use the internet, but no AI. And the third group was only allowed to use their own knowledge. And they all were asked to write an essay. So before going to the results, I'd like to have a quick word on how our brains works, because in order to learn something, it has to go over a process which creates connections in its massive electrical network. So first, we need a theory. We need to collect information, we need data, and then the brain will encode it. And so for that, we've got 2 zones in the brain which highly activates: the prefrontal cortex, which is in charge of concentration and reasoning, and the hippocampus, which is encoding the information into the brain. So those 2 zones really activate a lot during the collecting phase. Then we need practice. For example, we can take a quiz, and this forces our brain to retrieve the stored data. And this triggers the basal ganglia, which is around here, and which will transform a conscious effort into an automatism. The more you practice, the more the basal ganglia will return directly the stored information without you really thinking about it. And the third is metacognition. So metacognition is like, for example, when you took a test and then you've got the test correction. Then when a teacher gives you the test correction and explains when you were right or when you were wrong, this will release dopamine in your brain, and dopamine is like a reward for your brain. It really loves it. So when the answer is good, it will release more dopamine than when the answer is bad, it will release less. And for that, it will, it will want more dopamine. So it will enforce the connections leading to success and remove those connections leading to failure. And this is when you build a strong and long-term memory. So now, back to our study from the MIT. Well, the result of this study were really fascinating. So people using AI completed tasks really faster, no doubt, but they retain less understanding. And as we could have guessed, the group using ChatGPT only was the one using the least their brain, because I forgot to tell you, Matt, but during this study, they were tracking the brain activity of the people in the groups using electroencephalograms. So they saw that the people using ChatGPT had a less brain activity than the other. And they were not even able to quote their essays. This is the figure representing this. So this is what the MIT called the cognitive debt. And I think things are getting clear now, but when AI does the thinking, then the brain don't build the same internal models. This is almost like using a GPS all the time. You arrive faster, but you never learn the city. And if we continue to use AI just like this, we will just all turn into idiots. So what should we do? Should we ban AI? Well, I don't think so. It would be unrealistic, but we shouldn't trust AI blindly neither, because it would be dangerous. But what if the AI could be your mentor, your teacher? I think it would be good. It would leverage its incredible capabilities to improve your knowledge and your skills. And this is what I would call the vibe learning. So how did I start vibe learning? It was kind of an accident, you'll see. But as I told you earlier, I'm a big fan of side projects, and because they're fun, that you build what you want, the way you want, you got the time you want to do this, and well, I love it. So it's an incredible way to learn new things too. And a few months ago, I decided to craft a macOS application, as I never did it. And it was just about a simple clipboard manager, and with all the hype of AI. And I didn't try yet full vibe coding for a production project, because I thought it was too risky. I was saying to myself that maybe this is the good time to try full vibe coding on a side project. This will speed up my side project journey. And as I had no knowledge of Swift or Swift UI or how to build a macOS application, yeah, I thought it was the good candidate. And I've also heard about SpecKit earlier, and SpecKit being a toolkit, an AI toolkit for spec-driven development. I thought I would also give it a try. So I described the whole project from the clipboard manager MVP to the full feature, the ultimate clipboard manager we all dream of. I'm sure you do. So then I asked the AI, the Antigravity and Claude, to build the entire project. So it built it. It was really fascinating. I've got thousands of lines of code in just minutes. And in the end, I tried to run it, really excited to see what it created, but nothing worked. It didn't even run. So I tweaked my prompt. I asked the AI to fix it, and for a while, it didn't work. Then I thought to myself, maybe I was too greedy. I should have tried only building the MVP. So I started from scratch. I asked the AI, okay, now just build the MVP. And same, I ended up having nothing working. And as I didn't understand anything about Swift, Swift UI, I was not even able to debug the code. So I realized I was not coding at all. I was just orchestrating magic, and the magic wasn't really good for that experiment. Well, then I decided that I needed to reboot from scratch once again, but on solid basis. So I had to try to find an alternative approach, still using AI, because I really wanted, but this time I didn't want it to end up like an idiot, not understanding anything. So I started over the old-fashioned way. You know, I watched that video tutorial from Karen Prater. She was creating a screenshot app, and I followed along step by step, and I ended up having a working screenshot macOS app. That was nice. Still, I was not understanding much, but it was working at least. Then I asked the AI to generate documentation about Swift, Swift UI, macOS building application basics, stuff like this. So I started to learn like it was a documentation, but it was a condensed one. So I read all of this, and then I asked the AI to add comments in the code of the example project, the screenshot app, for every line that were non-trivial. And I also asked it to add like a prefix, like emoji learning, so that it could remove all those comments at one point. And here is an example prompt that would generate almost the same output. So I just reproduced it, but during that prompt, I also give some context to the AI. I told it that I was a developer, that I know some languages like Java, for example, so that it could make comparison in the documentation to ease my learning path. And what changed? The difference was enormous. I was transitioning for a vibe coding experience where I was not understanding anything and having lots of confusion, to an assisted coding experience with AI being my mentor, which explained me everything. And it gave me the confidence to refactor and challenge its idea. I was not proficient in Swift at this time, not now, but at least I could understand what it generates, and I could adapt and challenge its idea. So it's like a true learning experience, almost like if a teacher was guiding you, So AI become my mentor and not a magician anymore. And then to complete my learning journey, I asked the AI to quiz me to make sure that I understood everything and correct me if I was wrong. Because as I told you from the brain functioning, this is when you create remembrance. So this is an example prompt of generating a code test, and the AI is just waiting for you to answer and give you its feedback after a while. So now, if I want to recap and extract a vibe learning framework from all of this in order to get something actionable in our daily job, this would look like this. So the learning framework is a loop that you can use to write every feature of your project. And in this loop, you will go through a few steps like giving context to the AI, learning stuff, designing, building, reviewing, rewriting, reflecting, and documenting, and so on. And in this framework, the AI will endorse different roles. So it will endorse the role of a teacher, explaining concepts, building mental models, creating summaries. It will also take the role of a senior mentor, challenging design, questioning trade-offs, reviewing critically, and it will also take the role of a junior developer who writes code, makes mistake, and needs review. So with this loop, for each feature, it will increase your understanding, your architectural intuition, and your ability to challenge AI. And the key difference with VibeCoding is that you never skip the thinking phases. So in detail, with example prompts, this is what the framework looks like. So at first, And before asking anything to the AI, it is critical that you explain the context to the AI. So you need to think about your feature really deeply, because this is what you want to develop, and you need to explain it. And first, you need to set a set of rules. No, not rules, but a set of things to give context to the AI. So you need to set the business goal, the constraints such as performance and security, or the current architecture, and your definition of done, so that the AI will know what to generate. AI must not define the problem. You're in control, so you define the problem. Then comes the phase of the learning. So even if you think you know the topic, you need to build a fundamental understanding. So at this time, the AI becomes a teacher. And your goal now is to be aware of, at the end of this phase, you need to be aware of the core context involved, the common pitfalls, the industry best practice, the standards, etc. And the stage results you might ask to the AI is to generate a mind map or a one-page documentation that you could give to a new team member, for example. And if this will build your mental scaffolding and help you build your memory long term. So then you need to focus on design, and this time the AI will become a senior mentor. So for now, you don't request code, but you will request design proposal. So if you have any idea on how you would develop this feature yourself, you can give it to the AI and ask it to challenge your ideas. But if you get no idea, then only ask for proposals from the AI, design proposals, and for each answer it gives you, ask questions like about trade-offs, about edge cases, hidden complexity, or maintenance concerns. For example, you could ask, why is this approach better than the alternatives? And this phase will build your engineering judgment. Then comes the time for building and reviewing. And at this step, the AI will take the role of a junior developer. So this is the time when the AI will generate the code. So first, you need to define a set of rules so that the AI don't do anything stupid. So ask it to only do small changes, to work on one responsibility at a time, and you should ask it to commit between every changes, because it will ease your life when you need to roll back anything. I encourage you to try the test-driven development strategy at this point, because as you already gave all the context to the AI, it should be able to generate all the tests before it started to generate the code. And if you do this, just review the test at first. Let's check that the context was good enough and the generated tests are relevant. Also check that there's no bug in the tests. And at the end of this stage, all the tests should pass. Then ask the AI to generate the code. And once the code is generated, your job will be to review the generated code as you would review the code from a junior developer, a pull request, for example. And if you spot a bug, well, this is the main goal of the code review. Well, there are many benefits, but first one is that you can spot bugs earlier. The second one is that you can learn from a junior developer, because even if it's just coming out of the school, it might teach you some new stuff that you don't know. Well, and if you find a bug in the generated code, then you will iterate and ask the AI to fix it, because you understand what it does. You found the bug, just ask it to fix it. And if you don't feel comfortable reading the lines, then it might need that you need to go back to the learn and context step. Then once the code is generated, it's a good time to either add your own code or to rewrite a piece of code the AI has already generated and compare it to what was generated. So this makes sure that you do know how to do it on your own, and it prevents passive consumption, and it consolidates your learning. So at this stage, the AI takes the role of a senior developer, and you will ask it to review your code really strictly. And then, if you want to try to challenge yourself, your code or the generated code, you can also try to explore boundaries by asking questions about an advanced or an optimized version of the code, so that you feel, so that the code will work properly on a different scale or with higher traffic, stuff like that. And this will help you, think of scaling or design limitations, and you might reuse that knowledge when describing the context for future features. Now that the feature is implemented, it's a good time to consolidate your learning, and the AI will endorse the role of a teacher once again. And as a teacher would give you homework before passing a test, first ask the AI to recap all that has been done, all you learned, from the start of this experiment, and to quiz you about the feature to check that you understand everything, and to correct you if you're wrong. This will activate your metacognition, as we saw earlier, and this forces your brain to create strong neural connection, and this would make sure that newly acquired knowledge won't fade away. And last but not least, I encourage you to ask the AI to generate a documentation of what it has done until now. For example, you can ask for a simplified documentation of the whole process of the whole feature building. And if you understand the generated doc, that it means you own the feature. You regain control. You have ownership over that feature. So in the end, what does the Vibe learning framework gives you? Well, on every cycle, for every feature, it will increase your understanding, your confidence, your ownership, and your ability to challenge AI. And it might take a few loops, but you'll end up growing skeptical, and you'll see yourself asking questions to the AI, such as, why did you make that choice? Or it seems over-engineered, or why are you using this abstraction, or this might create tight coupling, stuff like you would say to another developer maybe. And you'll be able to detect when the AI is wrong. So with this framework, you regain control. And why does it work? It works because learning requires active recall. It requires reflection, correction, comparisons, etc. So here are a few benefits of the learning framework. Instead of getting sheep as fast as possible, you've got sheep and grow. Instead of, I hope this works, you get, I understand why this worked. And instead of, let's ask AI to fix the bug, then you can reason yourself about the root cause, and when you get it, then you can ask AI to fix it. So I hope I'm starting to convince you in the interest of learning alongside with working with AI, because AI is so powerful, and as we have already heard today, it's a revolution, and as every revolution, it can be exciting and scary at the same time. And I know some developers are already overwhelmed with all the AI improving so fast, all the AI products, and they wonder what their job will become. Will they still be relevant in a few weeks or months? So if you're not convinced, ask yourself, what do you think the future developer will be? For myself, I think, for me, the future developer won't be a useless proxy for a product owner, only prompting things, not understanding anything. It would have no value. But I think the future developer uses AI as a leverage to improve his own skills. As coding will take less time, he will also have more time to think deeper about the features, more time to experiment, test, improve, and secure things. So you should try Vibe Learning. you can try another framework. This is not perfect, and you can, you can find similar things, or you can build your own framework. But especially as young developer, you should really try to do this, because old developers like me, we've already been through so much, issues, bugs to correct, to fix. We corrected dozen projects. Well, we've already built our intuition and engineering judgment. But if you never faced difficulties you needed to overcome on your own, then at one point, if you only rely on AI, you might feel stuck. And if this framework is too complex, or you might want to do it another way, here is a few other ways you can interact with AI. You can interact with AI, for example, with a Socratic mode, asking it not to give you answers directly, but to ask you questions until you find the solution on your own. You can force the AI to argue against its own solutions. Reverse engineering is what I've done in this project. A fun way to do it is to create an intentional bug practice. Ask the AI to introduce a few bugs in your code and try to fix it on your own. That's kind of fun. Well, there's other ways to interact with AI. But in any case, choose growth over automation, and remember that knowledge is power, so don't take anyone or anything take it from you. Thank you.